we got a team that I think people are disappointed about. They're, they've kind of been in a little bit of a rebuild for a while now, post championship. They got some young talent, but they've got a lot of swing pieces as well, trade pieces. Can you guess who I'm talking about with those vague descriptions of an NBA team
Only fits about 10 teams in the league, right?
that won a championship and are disappointing us currently?
Won a championship and disappointing. You want to talk more about the Lakers? I don't know.
Uh, no, I'm actually talking about Toronto. So, my take on this one is that this is a tale of two stories for Toronto in the last two seasons. Either Pascal Siakam succeeds and the team is not as successful, or the team succeeds and he is not as successful. So, I'm pulling up some stats from the past 2 years. His scoring average is up by about 3 points, and his shot attempts are up by about one. But he's taking a lot of shots this year. He's doing a lot of impressive statistical stuff. Going to get an All-Star nod, etc. But if you recall, last season there was some disciplinary issues. There was inconsistent play, etc. But the reality is the team's not that different. Now, you could say that Scotty Barnes having a bit of a sophomore slump is not helping the team as well. But I personally feel like Toronto needs to steer in a direction. They either need to build around Siakam and figure out how that's going to work because the current team's not working very well, or they need to trade him while he's hot and build around that team-centered focus that was clearly so successful last year. Because currently they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place. So they have a very good individual player that is not impacting winning the way that they want it. And when he was a little bit subpar last year, they're actually a more successful team. So, thoughts?
What's your take here?
I guess the take is, I guess the take would be if you had to title, it would be it's Siakam or the team. It's not both,
I,
right?
I, yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, Toronto are disappointing right now, but they were. I had a look at the standings just like earlier. I'll bring them up again. All right, they're half a game out of the play-in. Okay, that's the nature of how the play-in has sort of really kept teams relevant, even if they're underperforming. Um, I think if you sort of went away from the play-in and you needed to be in the top eight, that'd be about 3.5 games out of the top eight based upon the old system. They're not that far away. And I think we're talking about, we talked about earlier in the season, like Miami having a slow start. We talked about the Sixers having a bit of a slow start as well. The Golden State obviously had a really woefully slow start. And look, I know it went halfway through the season here, but the Raptors still have time. And I think by the time the season is finished, you would probably expect them to slide into at least a play-in spot. And I think, assuming they keep their roster intact, that is. And I think that's probably how, if I was the GM there, I would probably let this season play out and then look into the off season, maybe some of the moves there, because I don't think Siakam is the cause of this underperforming season. I think you're sort of if you're looking at some stats there, I'm sure we can bring up more advanced metrics, and I don't know how far you want to dig into this, right? But I don't think anyone is saying that Siakam's greater stats right now, and he's having a potentially all NBA year at the moment with his output, is the cause of why they're underperforming. Because I think a lot of the role players are not playing as well as they are. Scotty Barnes, obviously, you mentioned. Van Fleet is not having a great season at the moment, not shooting that well. He was an all-star last year, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
or the year before. He's definitely not playing at that level at this point. And there's a bit of a lack of depth. And that's why I think in part Nick Nurse is playing a lot of heavy minutes. I think if you look at Toronto's box scores, most of the stars are playing 35 plus minutes. Because if you look down further the bench, there's probably a lack of depth there, proven talent to really support the starting five. So I think there's more to do with the roster construction, along with the output of multiple other players besides Siakam. I think if you're pinning this on Siakam, I think you're potentially looking at the wrong cause of the Toronto's currently underwhelming record.
Well, I think the idea of the take is that I want to be ahead of it. So I think there's going to be a realization that Siakam's not here. And Toronto needs to move off of it because let's get into it. Siakam's having a great individual season, but it's not impacting the role players. We both recognize that. Now, are they underperforming because they're not good enough, or are they underperforming because to facilitate his success, it's actually not conducive towards them having the best possible chance. Like we talk about Luka and we talk about him needing help, but he does make the players around him functional and better, right? They're currently sitting fifth in the West, right? Luka is responsible for that. We can say that. Now, we're not saying Siakam's on the same level as Luka, but we are basically seeing Siakam having a slightly lesser role and doing less or being less productive led to team success with essentially the same group. And now all of a sudden, well, he's the only one stepping up and being partially better than he was last year, and everyone else has taken a dip. To me, that doesn't feel like a very good situation to be in, where if one player is doing well, five aren't, whereas opposed to that one player not doing well, then five are. I reckon there's something there. That's where the hot take comes from, is that I reckon there's a little bit more to this Siakam situation, but that could be the conspiracist coming out. I don't know.
Yo, this is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz, this is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.